All right, I know we spoiled you with UAB, Memphis, and Iowa State, Kansas. Now we're going to have to move down the rung a little bit to USC and UCLA out there in the Pac-12. Brian, I got to admit I was surprised with USC's performance last week against Arizona State. I really thought that they would falter, but they turned a 14-14 tie into a 3-touchdown win and cover against the Sun Devils. Now, this line's been kind of interesting because right now as we speak, it's basically USC -3. We've seen as high as 4 in this game. We've seen it bouncing around from 3, 3.5, 4. What say you on this game as far as the line movement and then also your matchup between these two Pac-12 teams?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I was down at the Win and they put it up at 3. I made the line 7. So I laid the 3. I'm feeling pretty good. Line's at 4. And then I was out last night with a couple of other handicappers from the show and they're all on the opposite side. And all of a sudden the line drops back down to 3. But if they take a look at history, this is it's a total situation where everybody's overreacting to what UCLA has done lately. They've scored 44, 66, and 45 points the last 3 weeks. They've done so against 3 terrible defenses. And you take a look at USC, people are talking about the 50-0 revenge for UCLA. UCLA's coming on now. This is the time to play them. 2 class differences here. You go back to the last 13 years. USC is 12-1 straight up in this series. Take a look at the lines the last few years in this matchup. UCLA's been favored by 16.5.
USC, you mean?
USC, I'm sorry. 16.5, 6.5. It's not like us to ever make a mistake. 13, 33, 19.5, 11.5, 21, 22.5 at 23 points. Now it's 3. And you hit it right on the head there when you talked about USC. You thought that they weren't going to come out and play a good game last week. Every time we count out USC, they come out with a good game.
Well, I tell you what, Marco, Brian's right. I mean, UCLA probably abused Washington State's secondary more than Mike Leach has. But, Brian mentioned that there's a different class level in this matchup. One school does go to class, the other doesn't. I'm not going to say which one. But anyway, as far as this game is concerned, they were outscored talking about that UCLA defense in the second half against Washington State, 29-7 over the final 2 quarters. They were outgained by Washington State, 524 to 334. Bruin quarterback Brett Hundley completed 18 of 21 passes, but it's like after this team got a lead, they started looking ahead to USC. Do you agree with the line movement here, going from 4 down to 3, or do you think? And Brian kind of said what I was going to throw to him next, which was look at the line differences. It's 3. Last year it was 16.5.
I think a lot of people, and I'm a situational handicapper, so I'm going to point out this is, a big sandwich spot for USC. I know it's a
rivalry matters.
You see, this is
one-sided.
This is one of those ones I call a one-sided rivalry. Now, this used to be a great rivalry, but right now, honestly, Notre Dame and Oregon is a bigger rival for Southern Cal than UCLA, in my opinion. They play, Oregon, because of the success Oregon's had the last several years, every year that's their game. And to me, that's what tells me that Southern Cal is going to stay focused in this game, because with everything that's gone on and what they showed last week, and you said it, coming out and still being focused after the letdown from Oregon, they know they still can determine the national championship game. They win this week, they're going to play Oregon again in the Pac-12 championship game. So they're going to have a second shot at knocking Oregon off and ruining their national championship bid. Next week, they play Notre Dame. They can knock them off and ruin their national championship bid. They're going to determine one way or the other who's going to be playing for the national championship, either good or bad. So situationally wise, you could say, hey, they're looking ahead. But if they don't win this game, they don't get that second shot at Oregon. So I think Southern Cal comes to play.
When you're talking about major college football programs and they play every year, I always look to see, like you were saying, Brian, what the line was the year before, the last couple of years and things of that nature. We saw a huge line difference when Oklahoma played Texas Tech earlier this season. Oklahoma was like 29 or 30 last year, and they were 3.5 or 4 this year. Then Oklahoma hangs a 41-20 loss on Texas Tech. I mean, this to me looks like one of those similar situations. This is your free pick.
USC's only lost 3 games this season. In those 3 games, they had a -7 turnover differential. This is still a very good team, and if you've been watching these videos all year long, you know I haven't been overly high on USC. So for me to be able to make this line 4 points higher than what the current line is means that there's some value here. And just take a look at two weeks ago. UCLA is at home against Arizona. UCLA is laying 3. Now they're getting 3 from USC. They're telling me that USC is only 6 points better than Arizona. No way. They're 14 points better, according to my numbers, against UCLA. This is a cheap number. USC is the better team, and I like to play teams that have something to prove when they play a team that they've beaten up in the past. I think we see another blowout here.
Good points. You got me leaning towards maybe going up to the window and plucking down some money on the favorite in this one. And, this is one of those things. Obviously, you didn't factor in that -3 home field advantage in Pasadena for UCLA. One of the worst. It's one of the most beautiful and best places to watch a football game, folks. If you've never been to Pasadena's Rose Bowl, but there is absolutely no home field advantage when it comes to UCLA. They're normally outnumbered by some of those teams that travel non-conference from the Midwest and East. Now, in this particular game, they're going to have some people there yelling and screaming for UCLA, but it's soft fan support nonetheless. Like what you're saying, love it. In fact, USC minus the points from Bryan Leonard. When we come back, we're going to stay in the Pac-12. We've got the battle between Oregon and Stanford up next. Stick around at pregame.tv.